Good evening to everyone. My name is Katia Gomez, and I'm the founder and executive director of Educate to Envision International. Like so many of you probably in this room tonight, I was motivated and inspired to go on a volunteer abroad trip as a college student. So I had seen the PowerPoint slideshows in my international studies courses, I had read the lectures, but I still didn't really feel I had a true grasp on what global poverty was. So I joined a group for spring break, and I headed to the rural villages of Honduras. It was around this time that I began to question and notice my conflicted position of privilege. And I say this because even though I was able to cut the check that would pay for my airline fees, would pay for all of the program fees that I would need to get myself to Honduras, it was only because financial aid had let me do that. It was only because at that time, the assistance I received being sponsored through high school and college was something that let that be a reality for me. And that experience I will always be grateful for because it was truly life-changing. And I don't say that lightly because literally 2 months after I returned home, I had started a nonprofit that was the direct result of what I had seen in Honduras. But that life-changing experience came with a hefty price tag, and it's not something that the average college student can afford on their own. Even with financial assistance, the other obligations they have might not make that possible for them. So with all of the good that came from these trips, and I want to emphasize that they do provide value and they allow us to come back to our homes and to spread awareness about what we saw and to hopefully bring more eyes to the causes that we become passionate about. But I also want to be honest with you tonight and share that I do have mixed feelings about some of the ways that these trips operate. And I came to this conclusion because when I was starting my nonprofit, and this has really guided the way that I run my organization as the executive director, and the reason being is because I noticed a couple of power dynamics that came into mind while I was down there and when I returned. And the first is more tangible. It's something that I feel we can solve easier, and that's between those of us who are able to go on these trips, who are able to financially afford them, and those of us who are still deeply committed to solving global poverty and have that passion but aren't able to meet that passion with the finances or the funds to help in that way. The second power dynamic is a little more obscure, but I feel is just as important and is very entrenched in the way that traditional nonprofits work and how their mindset is. And that's between all of us in this room who most likely come from Western educated backgrounds, who have technology at our fingertips, who have the platforms like this to share our ideas and have them heard in front of a global audience. And those in the communities that we visit, the kids that we take pictures with, the families that open their homes to us, who for them that idea is foreign and maybe decades still far away. And I want to share with you how my organization is working to disrupt those power dynamics. So we created a cultural immersion program that works so that high school students in the US, no matter what your income level is, can collaborate with students in Honduras, in these rural villages, to work on joint community service projects. So there's no plane involved, there's no travel involved, so the fee's waived, but instead they're communicating through Skype, through Google Hangout, through video conferencing, and they're learning just as much about the local context. They're asking each other questions about, so what needs are actually happening, right now in Detroit and Oakland? What's happening in Honduras? And they're finding these parallels and these similarities of what it's like to be an adolescent, no matter where you come from. So what we really pride ourselves in is that it actually creates a level playing field. It's no longer, let's hand a jar to this classroom and have them collect dollars and coins so we can send to the poor kids in Honduras. It much more focuses on these are peers and they're facing somewhat similar challenges, but how can we learn from each other? So they give each other progress reports, they motivate each other through emails, through video, and that's been something that we've been proud of developing to help break that power dynamic. So I wanted to challenge you all here today to help me break those two power dynamics. So the first, we can even start today by looking around the room, asking yourself who you came with today, who's here from your school and who's not, and possibly maybe it was because of financial reasons that we couldn't bring a bigger group of your student organization to come. So what can we do so that they can also be able to experience what we all are here tonight? The second power dynamic that I mentioned, there's a couple ways I have in mind for you, and the first is to challenge nonprofits like myself. So we get kind of an easy ride because we are, a charity and we're doing good, but challenge us when we say that we're doing things sustainably. Challenge us when we say that our goal is that we want to empower people and to bring them self-sufficiency. Let's make sure that we're actually doing that. So hold us accountable as nonprofit leaders to make sure that we really are paving the way and not making things so that handouts are the norm. And I also challenge you, when possible, to invest and not donate. So donations are incredibly important in cases of humanitarian disasters, emergencies, natural disasters where aid is needed right away. But investing is when you're looking at the cyclical poverty, generational poverty, in ways that are going to actually create wealth for the community and not just alleviate poverty. So I urge you all to continue the discussion here amongst yourselves, and please talk to me tomorrow as well if you'd like to learn how to get involved with Educate to Envision. My name is Katia, and my humanity is tied to yours.